and for the most in-depth coverage of tonight's games and comprehensive analysis of all New York sports, tune to Geico Sports Night on SNY. Continuous updates, insider info, exclusive interviews. Geico Sports Night all night, every night, starting at 10:30, only on SNY. Get your New York sports here. Doc O'Brien joins us for injuries here on this Football Friday, and we got a bunch of them to get to. As a matter of fact, we could be here for hours, but picked out ones that impact the season and ones he can comment on, plus a couple of different ones. Doc, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Mike. How you doing today?
Good, thanks. All right, Doc, let me start with Luck. The other day, last week, he threw 3 days. On the third day, they shut him down in pain. They didn't say, all they would say is he's shut down indefinitely, that he was feeling pain throwing. They now list him out indefinitely, labrum/shoulder, and I doubt you'll see him this year. The question I have now is his future and whether he needs more surgery.
Okay, so like everything else in life, it's not the crime, it's a cover-up, Mike, and they've been doing this all season. And at the end of the day, they're cheating their fans. Here's what's most likely going on. He probably has developed or had biceps tendonitis, either preoperatively or postoperatively. It can come from getting blood in the shoulder. It goes into the bicipital pulley, if you will, and it gets stuck. They did an injection, and they're hoping that maybe that'll salvage something. Here's what's likely to happen, Mike. If he comes out now and has a second surgery, which is very likely he's going to need, he's going to be out, the rest of the season, and he won't be back till next year. I think what they're doing is they're hoping that they can milk this along and get him in at some point during part of this season. They said he was throwing okay in practice, but then he gets sore. He knows he's not right. I think the reason they haven't canned him at this point, Mike, is because they're hoping they can salvage anything out of this season, but I'm doubtful that's going to happen. I think he needs a second surgery, as we talked about before.
Would he be okay for next year, Doc?
Oh, yeah, he'd be 100%.
Okay.
But he needs a second surgery. It's funny because, like they said, that his biceps wasn't the problem. Well, what is the owner even mentioning the biceps for? It's a complication or something that's hidden. Once it's found, you know what? It's not going to get better with rest. The only luck they have, Mike, is if they get into the playoffs and they give him an injection, it may give him 2 weeks relief.
Right.
And you can only do like 2 injections in a year. So they've spent one now, hoping to bring him back. And they can't really do too much because the biceps can rupture if you give too many injections. So
they're going to be 2-10. They're going to be 2-10 by the time right now they're 2-5. They're going to be 2-10 anyway. So without him, so they won't have anything to play for.
I think the smarter thing for them and for their credibility with their fans is just face the music and get them fixed up and get them ready for next year.
All right, Carson Palmer with the broken arm, Doc. What's the status with him?
Well, Carson Palmer, I was surprised, Mike, they put him on IR. He fractured his non-dominant arm, his left arm. And, I was reading, at least through the Internet, that it's an ulnar fracture. Now, going back to when Carolina was in the Super Bowl, they had a guy had this fracture. He played in the Super Bowl with it with a protector. Now, they decided to fix it, which is a smart idea. I'm surprised they put him on IR because I think he could be back way before that.
Aaron Rodgers, you got more on Palmer? Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Aaron Rodgers says now he can come back. If the team has something to play for, he'll be back. Is that overdoing it, or is that okay?
That's okay. As I did the math, they put a plate in there, which is a smart idea. This will prevent what I call the Romo syndrome. You remember when he refractured his thing. Now he's protected. He fractured his left collarbone a couple of years ago. Got back on week 7. Week 7 will be December 3rd, week 13. He should be back. The only problem he's going to have, Mike, is that he's not going to be able to throw till after about 6 weeks. So he's going to be a little bit out of shape and deconditioned, but from a fracture standpoint, he'll be ready to play by mid-December.
All right. Cutler broken ribs. Doc, how do we judge? Is it just pain threshold, or is there a danger with broken ribs?
Now, he's got multiple rib fractures, and the more fractures you have, Mike, the more risk of a lung injury. I couldn't find anywhere how many ribs got fractured. The magic number is 3.
I think 2, but don't swear it. I thought 2, but I might be wrong.
All right, so 2 is good. And here's what's going to happen. Like a boxer who drops his arm, he's going to be very wary of getting hit. It's not going to be a matter of safety. It's going to be a matter of performance. Now, he broke these 2 ribs with custom pads on. So that means The custom pads aren't going to protect him as well for these fractures as he wants. But here's the bottom line. I think he'll be back in a week or two. They'll give him an injection to calm the discomfort down. The big question is, can he play hurt in the pocket and stick in the pocket with broken ribs?
Doc, tight end Delaney Walker has a bone bruise on his ankle. What would that mean versus a sprain versus a fracture? What is the significance of calling it a bone bruise on the ankle?
Well, here's the significance. Remember we talked about Sam Bradford and they had bruising in the bone.
Right.
You can't inject that. There's nothing you can do except wait it out. Now, the good news for them, they have a bye this week. And I don't know how bad it is, but if you sprain your ankle, Mike, they can give him an injection and calm it down or give him some relief to play. When it's in the bone, they can't. And if he's a big guy like this tight end is, and if he plays through it for too long, he can get a stress fracture. My guess is, though, you might see him back after this bye week because he's being completely rested in a boot. So he may be back, obviously in a week and a half now.
I brought up this guy for two reasons. One, I thought it was an interesting injury to have in season for a kicker. Now, Dan Bailey for the Cowboys is a big weapon. He's a major kicker. He's one of the best kickers. He's out this week for sure. They're playing the Redskins. But he's got a groin injury. Kicker, guy who boots 50-plus yard field goals with regularity. Kicker with a groin injury, Doc, would seem to me to be deadly. What about a groin injury on a kicker?
You're 100% right, Mike. It is deadly. It's where they make their living is moving their groin. I was surprised they should have just put him on IR because here's what's going to happen. If you jump the gun on this and he re-injures it and it becomes chronic, he'll never be the same kicker. If he's that good.
He is great. He's a great kicker.
Yeah, I saw that. They should shut him down because you're kidding yourself. One of the things I've learned doing this with you over the last 3 years is, you can't kid yourself too many times. I think you're kidding yourself. Even if he comes back in 2 or 3 weeks, if he re-injures it and injures it worse, he may never be the same kicker. It's very different than a lineman, very different than any other position. This is on his kicking leg, Mike. They need to sit him back for about 6 weeks.
How long is a normal, let's not say a kicker, let's just say a regular player, how long is a normal groin injury?
A lineman can play with it all season. A running back can play with it but won't play very well. A kicker, it's a kiss of death on his kicking leg.
Gotcha. All right.
6 weeks. 6 weeks, Mike, is the answer. But another guy like a lineman can limp along. He can't.
All right. Melvin Gordon, foot, key guy. The Chargers have won 3 in a row. Foot injury for Melvin Gordon. They said they would see how things were later in the week. How about him?
All right, I can't get a diagnosis, but he is practicing. He's limited, so it's nothing too bad. His problem is the cumulative angle of this. He's had a shoulder injury. He's had a knee injury. He's been on limited practice for 4 out of the last 5 weeks. He had very low production last week, 44 yards, held scoreless on 19 touches. I think it's going to be a performance issue. I think he'll play. Gotcha. Now, Hightower
he's gone for the season. I wanted to get into, you hear this more and more, and we haven't talked about it, pectoral injuries. There's a lot of them. Why so many pectoral injuries?
It goes along with big guys moving with the fast speed and very strong. But I'll tell you, just a short thing on pec injuries. If you remember way back, LT hurt his pec against New Orleans on a Monday night game. He played with it, and, LT is kind of superhuman. But if it's in the muscle, they can play with it. He pulled this fella, Dante, pulled it off the bone, and so it had to be fixed.
Gotcha.
It's going to end him for the season. The bottom line is if it's in the muscle, you can play with it. If you can take the pain because it's going to heal, it'll heal with scar. But when it's at the tendon, what he did, he's out. Why so many? The reason there's so many, Mike, is mainly because of how big and strong they are. But there's one other thing. I hope none of these guys are taking creatine anymore or any of these supplements because, as you know, sometimes they can be laced with juice and other stuff.
Yep.
And although
that's considered that's a telltale steroid injury, isn't it? Pectoral muscle.
It can be. Same with creatine, but I think that's pretty well policed right now. At least
Gotcha.
I hope it is.
Yeah, that used to be one of them, right? Wasn't that one of them, a pec muscle tear off the bone? Wasn't that considered one of them?
Yeah, a pec injury, any big muscle injury, if they are taking
Gotcha.
steroids or creating it, was very
I'm not
common,
accusing him. I'm not accusing him. I'm just saying that used to be a telltale injury. Now, he must have been badly hurt, Doc, because he's critical to their defense, and they now put him on the shelf for the rest of the year. So he had to be hurt pretty badly.
Yeah, he went down. Jimmy Andrews did his surgery, and Jimmy's fantastic. He definitely needed the surgery, and so they just kind of punted. Now, he hasn't played a full season, Mike, since 2013.
No, he's always hurt. He's really good player, but he's always hurt.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a little bit problematic. He's getting closer to 30 now.
All right, Doc. Listen, we went through a lot of stuff here today. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mike, have a great weekend, Mike. Take
Thank
care,
you,
pal.
Dr. Steve O'Brien. You get better stuff than you get anywhere on those injuries because he's one of the best there is. And as he told you, that's why I wanted to do the Cowboys. Heard what he said about Bailey and the groin. Be very careful. You know, he's made those claims a couple of times. He made a claim about Romo last year and said, don't be surprised you don't see Romo for a very long time or ever. And people were like, what, are you crazy? Look what happened. So be careful with him with these. And he also said that they were hiding an injury to Luck. Something was very peculiar in week 1 when they said he'd be back the next week, and you haven't seen him still. So he's one of the foremost guys on this stuff. Plus, he spent 15 years on the sideline with the Giants, so he knows in and out these football injuries and how long guys should be out and what you can and can't play with. So he does a very good job. Back after